most people who grew up in the 1990s, I was really into Power Rangers as a child. When Saban began adapting the Japanese Super Sentai franchise for Western audiences, it immediately joined the likes of Transformers and Ninja Turtles in popular culture. One of the most popular entries to the franchise was Time Force. It was notably darker in tone than most of your previous series, and even had big-name actors like Edward Lawrence Albert and Vernon Wells. In fact, the Game Boy Advance adaptation was the very first game I owned for the system, so I think it's time I powered down my nostalgia visor and gave it a more critical look. As far as the gameplay is concerned, it's pretty serviceable. The controls are very responsive, and there's a very smooth feel to the running and jumping. You can switch between the ranges at almost any time via the pause screen, a bit like some of the Mega Man X games. They all have different stats, which does give a bit of variety, but it's nothing really that game-changing. Jen jumps the highest, Trip has the biggest health bar, and Wes has all-round well-balanced stats. Now, while I'm using their names from the television series, the Rangers never appear unmorphed in this game, and are never referred to by name. That's a common nitpick with Power Rangers games in general from this era, that they don't acknowledge who they are under the helmets. One of the best examples of this is Power Rangers the movie on Sega Mega Drive. Not only did it have the likenesses of all 6 Rangers from the film and the character select, but they even went above and beyond by including Jason, Trini and Zack in the stages based on older episodes. Like I said, it's a minor thing, but one of the reasons fans get so emotionally invested in Power Rangers in the first place is because each Ranger is more than just their colour. There are some minor hints of characterization though. Like, in the show, Casey has super strength, so the Yellow Ranger in the game has the highest attack power. By the way, apparently Casey's surname is Walker, so she has the same name as the heroine of the Siberia games. Then again, Jen's surname is apparently Scott, so is it possible? Anyway, the Blue Ranger's specialty is that he can run faster than the others. This couldn't possibly be an allusion to how in the show, Lucas was always going on about being a champion race car driver. Okay, so what sort of race car, Lucas? Are we talking Formula 1, NASCAR, Saltbox Derby? Well, it's from a distant future. Maybe he's an F-Zero pilot. Maybe Lucas is secretly Captain Falcon! At first, your only attack is a punch and kick combo, but you can pick up other weapons like a Chrono Saber during the stage. Only to lose your weapons again once the stage is over. Just how clumsy can the Power Rangers be? I mean, they keep dropping all these dangerous weapons all over the place. Then again, this is the same organisation thought it was a good idea to send this massive monster of a mech back to prehistoric times. That's all the universe needs. Irresponsible time police. You also have the Vortex Blasters. Do you remember those from the television series? Those big, powerful-looking laser cannons that can blast almost anything into oblivion? I remember picking it up and expecting something like this. And what happens when you pull the trigger? Maybe my standards are a bit too high. You build up energy for your weapons by attacking enemies. When your weapon meter is full and your icon starts flashing, you can unleash a special attack with one of your weapons, like... Wait, the special attack from the punch is called the Power Glove? Let's test this out!
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Fun fact, Tobey Maguire was in that film long before he became famous for Spider-Man. Speaking of which, this game is very similar in presentation to Spider-Man Mysterio's Menace, which is also developed by the same company. There's a very similar look and feel to the sprite's movement. When I replayed the two games for the purpose of this review, I actually started to wonder if they were running on the same game engine. Well, it wouldn't be the first time Spider-Man had dealings with Super Sentai. That game used comic book style illustrations for cutscenes. Power Rangers Time Force did something similar, but nowhere near as well. The comic book style shot of Rancic is impressive, but there's only 2 of them like that. The ones which show the Rangers look like they were taken from a colouring book, then scanned and coloured in Microsoft Paint. And the cutscenes of the monsters are nothing but enlarged sprites. While on the subject of sprites, like many Power Rangers games, everyone shares the same character model. But at least here everyone's skinny as opposed to the super buff male bodybuilder sprite they all had in the Super Nintendo version. So, while the game looks okay and it controls well, I do have a complaint with fighting enemies. The controls of punching and swinging your sword are decent enough, but your attacks don't make a very interesting sound effect. You know how in the TV show, it's all flashy with sparks flying and controlled explosions every time someone gets hit? It's nothing like that in the game. underwhelming in comparison. Now, let's talk about the music. I can't really fault the composition itself. I mean, it is atmospheric and it is appropriate to the setting of each stage, but it's just not that exciting. This might take a bit more explaining. The stage tracks don't really get you stoked to hit the ground running, kick rubber and burn some asses. If anything, the music sounds more like town and dungeon themes in an RPG. There's the Wild West theme, then there's the Pirate Stage theme, and finally the foreboding Roman Colosseum theme. So the point that I'm trying to make is, while the music isn't terrible, it just doesn't sound like action game music. It's a shame that the music isn't very stimulating in this game, because the game overall is also not very stimulating. In the first stage you are, I'm assuming Alex, the previous Red Ranger, chasing Rancic through the prison, with Circuit popping up with mini tutorials every so often. I can understand how this can be annoying, but at least Circuit actually gets to the point with just 1 or 2 text boxes, unlike some other video game owls we could mention. At the end of the stage, you finally catch up to Rancic. Unfortunately, you don't get to fight him, but the confrontation is actually accurate to the TV show. Just not quite as dramatic. The game also makes Circuit out to be a completely insensitive clod. He's all, "Don't worry, we'll find another replacement for the Red Ranger on the other side of the portal. He's not a dead battery, you know!" After that, you start at the clock tower from which the Rangers operate nick-of-time odd jobs. From here, you explore the city of Silver Hills. I use the term explore loosely because there's literally nothing to find. No bonus content, no Easter eggs, no hidden secrets. You just go either left or right to find whatever monster you need to defeat, usually navigating cyclobots in between. It's just busy work. A simple map selection screen would have worked fine. The Silver Hills part of the game is basically just filler content between the levels and the bare minimum of what constitutes an adventure game. Still, at least it's better than that so-called adventure mode in Senran Kagura. It's as much of an adventure as the time I climbed the dinner table when I was 4 years old and claimed to have climbed Table Mountain. Most of the stages are very short and straightforward. It's usually just a simple left-to-right affair. The stage inside the Colosseum may look like it twists and turns like a Metroidvania title, but don't be fooled. It's just a linear hallway. Okay, maybe not that linear. But in all honesty, the only stage that isn't so straightforward is one in Cairo. You run all the way to the right, but you hit a dead end. It turns out that the exit is actually above you when you start the level. Well, at least it gives you an excuse to jump across rooftops. One jump ahead of a bread line, one swing ahead of a sword. I steal only what I can afford. That's everything. In the final stage, you kick dinosaurs in the face. Oh look, another Spider-Man reference! This stage has a lot of pitfall traps in the first act, so it does get a bit more challenging, but not by much. It's still pretty easy overall, just like all the other stages of the game, especially when you find the Quantum Morpher. Naturally, this lets you play as the Quantum Ranger, and he's every bit as powerful as he boasted in the TV series. Essentially, he has the speed of the Blue Ranger, the attack power of the Yellow Ranger, the hit points of the Green Ranger, and the jump of the Pink Ranger. Though, as much fun as it is to race through the stages with a super powerful character, it's not really necessary considering how easy the game is. The first stages are a typical left-to-right affair, and because you can jump so high you've got a lot of room to maneuver, you can actually bypass a lot of the enemies. Even during the rare occasions when the enemies seem to overwhelm you, it's really just a minor inconvenience, because each ranger has their own health bar. All you have to do is change over when your health's getting low. Finally, let's talk about the bosses. Admittedly, they do have interesting character designs, and they certainly fit the themes of each stage, but fighting them, again, is rather boring. Think of a game like Mega Man, where the bosses are all about recognizing patterns, exploiting weaknesses, and it's satisfying when you win. Whereas in this game, most of the boss fights boil down to just relentless button mashing. For most of the bosses, all I had to do was keep hitting the sword button to keep them in stun lock until I won. This goes for all the Megazord fights too. Just keep whacking away until the power gauge is full, and you'll win. Even Rancid can be taken down in a couple of seconds. I don't need no gun! I'm gonna kill you! Rancid is one of the easiest final bosses I've ever faced. Let off some steam, Bennett. I mean Rancid. Would you like to know how long it took me to play through this game from start to finish? 40 minutes! Even Sonic the Hedgehog lasts longer than that, even if you don't bother with the Chaos Emeralds. Imagine paying £30 for this game back in the day. You just don't get your money's worth. I look at this game and I hear Count Draken's words echoing in my head. So much wasted potential. Given the abundance of action and drama in the source material, Power Rangers Time Force could have worked well in video game form, but it suffers from boring combat mechanics, uninspired boss fights, and its narrative doesn't make full use of the established characters. But the controls are decent, so there are some redeeming qualities. So my final rating for this game is 5 out of 10 Red Rangers. But I'll be kind of giving the side with Jason. It's not a killer app by any means, it's a pretty basic side-scroller, but it's actually a surprisingly relaxing game to play. It's a quick and easy game that you can beat with hardly any frustration. There's definitely better Power Rangers games out there, but there are worse ones too. So if I could go back in time to meet myself before buying this game, would I convince myself to pass it up? Well, no, not really. What I would do is give my past self a sports almanac from the past 20 years so I can win big on horse racing.